Hey everyone, it's Will, Gamer Dad, with another video for you. So I do apologize for the hoarse throat. Maybe it was a little bit too much yelling and screaming in last night's celebration, but most likely I'm just a little bit sick and under the weather. Now that being said, in today's video we're going to be taking on As Runa's manifest weapon, and this video will be a little bit different. Because it is delayed 24 hours, it did drop last night. This video will not only include the first fight, it will also include two versions of the final and more difficult manifest fight in order to unlock the full power of the obligation manifest weapon for As Runa. Now if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. So obviously the first fight is of no real consequence. It's more to see what kind of mechanics we're up against and what to prepare for. So with the very first fight, I didn't use any AF. Right away we can see that the enemy, or the boss I guess, at the first HP stopper, which you see is like, I don't know, 10-15% HP, it actually refreshes and removes all buffs and debuffs on itself, and so be very careful that if you do trigger that, it will counter with an attack at the same time. It also does have a second HP stopper closer to the 10-15% mark at the very end as well, so each of those should expect at least one counter, at least from what I can see here in the very first fight. When you see the second fight, you'll know exactly what you're up against, and there is actually a special mechanic in terms of an aura. I didn't show the aura in the first final battle. However, in the second final battle, I did show it just to show you what's up. Just a quick tip: you should try to bring an all wind or all fire team, or a mix of both fire and wind. There is consequences to using elements other than fire and wind, which I'll show you as the aura in the second final fight. Other than that, of course, achieving the first fight gives you a gold badge and 50 stones, and why not? We all need more stones to summon for the units we want, and stones are going to be a lot harder to come by as we get closer and closer to Japan. The time in between banners might be a little bit less, and so as much as you collect logins every day, make sure you do get the 20 and the 10 for the video and 20 for the other video, and then run your 5 ads as well, hoping to get not only some red and green keys but also some stones as well. So what you see in the loadout here for the first fight will be identical in setup for the second and most difficult fight. And just a reminder, as most manifest fights are, you do have to level up the weapon, which is around 37 million XP. I use a combination of both killing frogs in level 4 of the original battle simulator, as well as using the Omegopolis phase shift in order to grind out XP that way. I did use all my green keys, I bought them all this week, and so I had to finish up and top up the XP that way with one bold house. After that, just come back to the Demon Gramps and open up a conversation with him. We all know the drill, we've done many manifests before. And so the real fight begins. Now obviously, being that this is just a manifest fight and not a true manifest fight, I wasn't sure what to expect difficulty wise. It only took me a couple tries, which kind of lets you know how difficult the fight really is. Obviously the enemy is of a physical nature, and so if you have a physical team, try to use power debuffs. As Runa doesn't have any magic attacks, and so obviously power debuffs will be most important for your fight. Or if you can put physical shields on yourself, that's really important as well. So the easiest way for me to do this fight was to do a one-turn AF just to set up the buffs on As Sora. Remember, she can give herself Binding Armor, which gives herself 70% physical res. She also has her ult Foi Sincere, which also gives herself Type Shield, as well as applying dual debuff with Fleur Beneath. Not only that, don't forget to cast her preemptive move that allows her to tank any hit. Now at the first HP stopper, which like I said is very early on, the boss does remove all its buffs and debuffs, but doesn't remove your buffs and debuffs. So obviously with As Runa activating her cover ability and her binding armor and all her other physical shields and type shields up, you're taking 0 to 1 damage, and because she is tanking for your whole team, the rest of your team is going to survive absolutely no problem. After this, Obligation, As Runa's Manifest, does actually re-establish Awakened Wind Zone in the second HP stopper, but it doesn't really matter to me because I am using a wind team anyway. See, you break zone, re-establish Awakened Wind, and that really helps me because Awakened Wind Zone allows Cyan Scyther to do a lot more damage, and she was able to cut her down, right after the second HP stopper. So this wasn't super optimized, but the team was enough to kill the enemy with essentially just 2 turns. Obviously, Sesta is doing the very heavy lifting. The boss at least doesn't have any barriers to pierce through, so obviously Twin Blade Wolf wasn't absolutely necessary. I'm sure a comparable wind team would be more than enough in order to whittle down the damage, especially if you have a tank such as As Runa on your team. Obviously, you can use Chivalry from As Radius and As Yifa if you want to use non-AF strats to boost your team as well. Again, the loadout isn't shown in that fight because the previous fight showed the exact loadout. Now, in my second demonstration, we are using the original Manifest team that I've used. However, there are some modifications because there is a rule violation here. If you attack with other than wind or fire, she will get preemptive attacks, and you don't want that. There's going to be slicing and dicing you to oblivion. And we're going to dust off some old units here. We do have Bivette here. And the reason why Bivette is here only is because she can cast Flame of Life, which does give you physical res 35% for your whole team. I try to use some older units, especially if the fight isn't too difficult, just because, hey, why not? We haven't, it's all about the meta nowadays, but I really like enjoying older units if I can fit it in on my team. I'm sure, based on this fight alone, I probably could have used Aisha instead of Efi, because Efi actually wasn't necessary. I didn't have to tank any lethal hits, at least from what I can see here. Note that even with the 2 hits there, I only took like 3,000 damage, and obviously with things like Tetra and Kumos, we are taking less damage because remember, when I do magic damage, Kumos in the back, its aura does allow for damage less to your team by 30%, and so that itself will help me survive. If you don't have Kumos in the back, you won't have the same results. Don't forget also that Tetra, if you do take some damage, will give your increased max HP and MP plus 25%, and also gives you type and physical res. So obviously the sidekicks or buddies are doing the heavy lifting as well, although you don't see them in action. It's just that all their auras are overriding each other and protecting your team. We didn't even have to use the tank. You saw no one get brought back from the dead, and so again, I could refight this one with Aisha. Didn't bother at this point. I actually want to rest my voice and kind of rest up a little bit earlier tonight. But that being said, this was more of a fun Manifest fight. Certainly wasn't one of those headbangers where you just get really, really frustrated with the fight over and over again. And of course, Chio and is there to carry some Grasa. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.